Miki Agrawal, I'm so happy to have you on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? This has been over a year in the making. We're two busy ladies,
Sure.
two mamas running businesses, and I'm really proud of us for making this space. Thank you. You are one of the most creative, powerful, alchemical humans I have ever met. You are a woman who knows how to start a movement. You have grown multiple multi-seven-figure businesses from an idea into full movements. And I feel really excited today to let people in on how you do this. Like, why isn't everyone practicing conscious capitalism? Like, you're such a living, breathing example of this. You've done this time and time again, not just one time, but many times over. And so before we go into why isn't everyone practicing conscious capitalism, at what point in your life did you know you were going to be an entrepreneur?
Well, first of all, they're not multi-nine-figure businesses.
Multi-nine-figure businesses.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for that correction, because that's a BFD.
Yeah.
So just to put that in context, we're not talking $1 million businesses. We're not talking in the tens of millions. We're talking multiple hundred and the hundreds of millions of dollars, which is in fact a movement. And that isn't like the amount of energy that takes, the amount of consciousness that takes, the amount of support from nature that takes. And you do this because I know you so well. You are solving problems that you wanted solved for yourself. And I know that you are doing this to make an impact on the planet. So I guess that's the question. Like, was your original impetus to be an entrepreneur, or was the original impetus like, I want to do something to help the planet?
For me, it's been, well, first of all, I mean, I think it also takes the same amount of energetic to build a, 6 or 7 or 8 or 9-figure business. You only have so many hours in the day. So it's the question is like, how big do you want to magnetize? How big do you want to grow? How big do you want to radiate into the world? And it's okay either way, whatever way you want to go, it's okay. But I think, when there's like, I can see this shifting consciousness, then your radiating becomes bigger. And so the capacity grows to create, right? In the same amount of time that it would take to create other sizes. And so for me, it's always been like around the mission, which has been to elevate people and the planet. And
with all your businesses,
all my
same
businesses,
mission.
Same mission.
Okay.
So it's elevate people and the planet. And I've always cared about both. My name Miki in Japanese means 3 beautiful trees. I don't know if you know that, but and so I've always like climbed trees, and we had a lilac tree, an apple tree, and a peach tree in our backyard, and we just loved growing up around nature. And even now here in the lake, we're at my home, and it's just filled with nature, and that's really, really important to me to feel grounded. So, and just to serve the planet and people. So before I start any business, I always ask myself 3 questions. The first is, what sucks in my world? As a start in my world, there's a problem.
Yeah.
The second question is, does it suck for a lot of people?
Okay.
Because if it sucks for only me, then I'm just a diva, and there's no opportunity. But if it sucks for a lot of people, then there's an opportunity to change something for a lot of people. And then the third question is, can I be passionate about this issue, cause, or community for a really long time? And a lot of people create something for opportunistic reasons. Like, ooh, I see a white space and I want to create something, versus like, ooh, like I feel a deep calling to shift something. For me, it was in the realm of food, in the realm of periods, having women's period. And we'll go into that a little bit more. And the third is, just regular toileting, going to the bathroom.
Toileting. I didn't know that was a verb.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then now in the world of plastics and our next generation, how to serve them. So we'll get into these businesses, but they all started with having what sucks in my world. Having stomach aches. When I every time I eat pizza, created the idea to start the world's New York City's first gluten-free farm-to-table pizza concept,
which I love. I'm a regular.
Yes. And then having period accidents every single month created the aha moment to start Thinks, the period-proof underwear brand. In fact, I'm wearing them right now on my period every month. It's just like, it makes me feel safe and doesn't
really is a game changer.
Prevents leaks. And then going to the bathroom every single day was such a messy experience, to jump in the shower all the time because I had messy poops. And so creating Tushy, the bidet company, was like to me an obvious solution, and it serves so many people. And then the current one, Hero, which is looking at the plastic crisis. It's just like, what sucks in my world was wasting and going through 20 diapers a day and knowing that those take 400 years to break down in the landfill, the diapers. So it was just, and it weighed on my conscience. And so each one of them had a personal challenge and an environmental challenge. With my restaurants, we support local farms, or, and create local jobs. We, with Thinks, we've helped divert millions of tampons and pads from landfills. With Tushy, we've helped save millions of trees from getting flushed down the toilet. And with Hero, we're going to literally solve the global plastic crisis with diapers. So
I love this. Hero is actually the first company I've invested in, which I feel so stoked about.
Let's go.
Because I feel like, and just to, I'll give the pitch, and you can tell me if this is correct or not, but that Hero is not just about biodegradable diapers, but you're actually like using mycelium and putting them into the bins so that the mycelium then eats the plastic from the diapers, and you put that into landfills and it eats the plastic in the landfills.
That's right.
Which is wild.
Yes.
And so exciting.
So the main premise is, we want to be the first, true kind of scaler of plastic eating mushrooms. Like people haven't figured out how to take it out of a lab into the world where you can actually get to work and help support this global plastic crisis. So to be able to, so the first product being baby diapers is the idea is like, with Jasper when he was in diapers, when you breastfed your beautiful mama Juju breast milk into your baby, Jasper then pooped this potent mother's breast milk poop that's full of nutrient-rich mother's juju. So it comes from Mama Gaia, literally to the baby. And that baby poop is just getting wrapped in plastic and throwing in the trash and not harnessing it for good. So the whole vision was when the baby poops in the diaper from the mother's breast milk, it basically creates the most potent fertilizer that fertilizes the mushrooms, these plastic-eating mushrooms, to then grow in the diaper after you throw it out. And then it eats the diaper within a few months instead of 500 years that it currently takes to decompose in a landfill.
That's wild.
In between 400 and 500 years. And then when you throw it in a landfill, it starts eating the plastics in landfills too. That's the big vision.
Yes.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
So happy to have you on the ride.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, and again, this feels like for me, like conscious investment, right? Like I want to put my money into things that I want to change the world. And that's what we're doing with our time, right? Like we're investing our time, our energy, our money.
Yeah.
And so I really like what you said about the idea that we all have the same amount of hours in the day, and it takes the same amount of energy to grow a 6-figure business or a 7-figure business or an 8 or a 9-figure business. Because I'm currently in the process of scaling Ziva, and we just had our team offsite, and our whole theme was 10x is easier than 2x.
Yeah.
Right. It's a book by Dan Sullivan. And so that's been the big theme.
Wow. Cool concept.
Like the 10x is easier than 2x.
It's true.
So can you just give us a window in? Because I don't think many people think like this, because I'm trying to rewrite this story for myself, because I definitely have some subconscious beliefs that, 10x is going to be harder. 20x is going to be harder, but it's like, it's not going to take more time because we don't have more time.
Right.
That it's actually an energetic shift. So it seems like you came out of the gate dreaming big and wanting to go big with your missions. Is that something that you learned, or is that something that's innate in you? And if it's something that you learned, how would you share that with others?
Well, I think it just starts by the size of the problem, and it's like you can choose a smaller problem or a big problem just to solve. Right. I think, what you're doing at Ziva, for example, is a big problem that you're solving, right? It's like allowing people to really settle into their mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah, I mean, stress is responsible for 90% of all doctors' visits. 90.
It's insane, right? And so to be able to reattune the world is a big vision. Same thing for me when I was, building, whether it's Thinks, Tushy, and now Hero. They're solving big challenges. Every single woman has, experienced a leak, a stain, an issue on their periods. Like they've been through that moment where you're like, shoot, I have to run into CVS or change all my stuff. So it's a real problem. The problem in the landfills is insane, that billions of tampons and pads end up in landfills, and they take hundreds of years to decompose too. So it's like a real problem that needs to be solved. And, the current pads, tampons haven't been changed in 100 years. And then, in the toileting space, it's the same thing. It's like, it's a big problem. Everybody poops. Everyone goes to the bathroom. 1 in, 7 people have thyroid issues. 1 in 4 people have GI issues of some sort. There's like real issues just from a low hanging fruit perspective, that people have messy poops, and they're just like not like a one wipe ghost poop that most people think they have. Most people do not have that, you know? And so to be able to serve people where you're like, hey, you can precisely wash your butt after you poop with a spray of water is just a beautiful offering. And by the way, you're helping save 15 million trees from getting flushed down the toilet every single year. They can cut down for toilet paper consumption alone.
Yeah. So I hear that these are like big problems, but I'm interested in like your state of consciousness as you started the business. Like, how did you go into that with the idea of like, oh, I want to grow this, or was it something you learned?
So it's something that I learned, I think, in time where I actually, when I was building my restaurants, that wasn't a huge, I had a dream to create 1 or 2 or 3, I ended up getting up to 4 locations for my restaurants. And so I learned what moved people. And I think ultimately, like, we're trying to create a feeling state in people. And I think that feeling state is when someone feels this euphoric experience within themselves, or they discover something new, they want to share it with everyone they know. They're like, this thing, like they tell their friends, and it just becomes this like naturally like scalable thing just by word of mouth. Because when people discover Tushy and they sit on the toilet and they just like, oh my God, there's life before Tushy, life after Tushy. They literally at dinner table tell all their family, then they tell all their friends, and they literally have party. Like we've had like customers who write us to say like, I had a Tushy party where I wanted people to come to our bathroom, sit in the toilet and try it at dinner parties. And it's just like over and over again, because there's this unlock that happens in people and then they want to share it. Right. And so how do you create that unlock though is the real question, because even at my restaurants, I stood outside my restaurants for 2 years, handing out little pieces of pizza, A/B testing people walking by, see what they would say. For years, I would just be like, healthy pizza, like no one would stop. I'd be like, gluten-free pizza, no one would stop. I would say yummy, delicious, free pizza, people would stop. And then I would as they're like taking their first bite, I'm like, did you know it's healthy and it's gluten-free? It's like, this is delicious. And they take a menu and then they become a customer. And so just learning. So I learned, first of all, from those years of just standing outside, handing out little pieces of pizza for years, I learned how to entice people to come. Like verbally A/B testing people. So it's like really seeing psychologically what feeling state you want to create in them to make that shift inside of them.
And was it a feeling state, or was it communicating to the thing that they desired?
It was communicating a feeling. At first, it was like yummy. Yummy means like, oh, it feels good. And so versus healthy, they're like I want to feel healthy, but it's, I don't like, it's just learning.
I don't want it to taste healthy.
I don't want to taste healthy, So it's like really figuring out like, what is it that makes people like want to feel a certain way. And then you create what I call edutaining content that gets them to like laugh or feel an opening. So like I have a 3-prong thesis around changing culture. Do you want to hear what they are?
Sure do.
And this to me, I think is the unlock to create great giants businesses. The first is having a best-in-class product. Like that feels like they all seem pretty basic, but you'd be surprised because there's some products that you're like are so complicated that it takes so long to learn how to use it versus like this is a very simple thing you attach to a toilet.
Do you think simplicity is part of best in class, or it depends on the product?
Simplifying a thing that's complex into something easy is really, really important.
That is my definition of mastery. Someone who can take a complex subject and communicate it with simplicity.
Exactly.
And even think about Apple, like the best marketing, and you've done that. It's like, here's this crazy complex problem, but here's the simple solution.
And then you see kids just using it like intuitively, and you're like, wow, like Tushy, it takes 10 minutes to install. There's no plumbing or electrical. It's a toilet product. People are scared of it. But the manual is so fun. It reads how to put this shit together. And people are like, it just, as you read through the manual, it just like, there's always like Easter eggs of delight.
Yeah.
And so it makes people just want to keep reading, looking for the Easter eggs, and so people are so serious about their creating in the world that they kind of want to be so serious about how they talk about it. The reason why people I think love Ziva is because you're so playful and fun and people just like tune into beyond just like the seriousness of the transformation that you're creating, but it's also fun.
Yeah.
And so I think in the same way, like it's the edutainment piece that I feel like, are you educating while entertaining at the same time? Yeah. And that's what's going to create a thumb-stopping experience. It's like, oh my God, this girl wearing a butthole costume on her face. I want to see what she has to say. And then you watch it and all of a sudden it has 20 million views.
Cool.
And so like that kind of stuff where you're just like, what is going to thumb stop? That's actually a term, like that makes your thumb stop and makes you want to press play and watch something, usually it's edutaining. So whenever I think about any one of my companies, they've all been really fun. They've all been fun. And who doesn't want fun? You know what I mean? And learn something. And when they're having fun, laughing, learning something, it unlocks. So the first question, the first prong in the three-prong thesis is best in class product. Has to be the best. The second thing is it's accessible, relatable language. And this is where the edutainment piece comes from. People don't want to be so heady and clinical and medical or technical, where it's so like, wait, what are you saying? Like, I have to rewind and watch you say this thing 5 times. Just like you said, simplifying is the mastery. It's the how relatable and fun is a language. And so I always say, write like you're texting your best friend.
Yeah, this is great advice. You gave this to me. And when I read your marketing, I'm like, yeah, she really nails this.
Yeah. And so it's like this way of like.
And do you do that with all of your companies?
All of my companies.
But does like the best friend avatar change?
Yes. And so the persona changes. Like for example, with Hero, it's about moms. When you want to do mom jokes that everyone can relate to, like we can relate to being moms. And when we read it, we're like, yeah, that feels so right. Why everyone loves Seinfeld. It's situational comedy that everyone gets.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, can you create that texting your best friend vibe as a mom, texting your best friend vibe as a friend, texting your best friend vibe as a woman who has a period? Like what are the different like personas, but it's still the best friend vibe. It's messy. It's not like perfect. It's not put together. It's like, oh my God, could you believe and it's like when you text your friends, it's loose, it's relaxed. It's not clenched or tight. You can tell when someone's clenched and tight when they're like, would this sound good? Like, what do you think? Do you think this is the right copy that someone's going to want to read and blah, versus like, what I want to say, like what feels natural and authentic and real to me, I'm going to say that in that way.
Oh, this feels like a really important point because I know that so many people in the audience, either have small businesses or are coaches or are like building their own wellness products. And so this to me is something I've really been refining of like trying to get it right, like being perfect. Like this is what it's supposed to be.
People don't
like,
want that.
Like I'm supposed to be like good at business, or this is how you write a good professional email, versus what you're saying is like, let it be a creative expression
of you.
Yeah. Your unique nature, your unique channel.
Yeah.
Which is also part of consciousness. Right?
Totally. And you could also sense when like ChatGPT writes it versus when you write it. It's like, for now, yeah, until they learn your thing. But there is the heart and the soul and the guts and the root that you want to feel, right? And so I think that it's like best in class product, accessible, relatable language, and then artful design across every touch point of your brand. And like what I mean by artful isn't like brandy. Like, does that look like a brand like this brand looks like? Because that brand, I really like that brand. So let's make it look like that brand versus like what art moves me. When I see a painting and I'm like, oh, like I see that little sun peeking out of that art, I'm like, it makes me feel something, right? That's from our friend Leora who made that's amazing. And it's like when I go to MoMA or when I go to art, I use art as a way to like inspire myself for creation. And it's like, I'm not trying to create a brand. I'm trying to create a feeling. And what is that feeling I'm trying to create? It's like this authentic feeling. So like with Tushy or with now Hero, it's like, what feeling are we trying to evoke? So with Hero, for example, the word that I've been sitting with for so long, I'm like, what is the word that represents the brand for Hero? And the word is intimacy, because there's nothing more intimate than a parent and a baby, and you're holding your child and the baby's like literally drinking your breast milk and it's pooping and it's, you're going through that intimate experience of parenting. But how does then that translate into art? And so then I thought about like, okay, what's the most intimate thing I can like read? It's like someone's journal. And you're like reading someone's journal. So what would it be like if I anthropomorphize like a mushroom and turn them into humans? And what would their journals look like?
Mushrooms journals.
Yeah. Like, or a parent or a baby's journal. If a baby could write, what would be the journal? Like, this is what they're putting me this poop catcher in plastic. Like, this is the best that our parents could do. Like, come on. Like, so just, and then, but then how, okay, so there's the intimacy of the journal, but then like, how do you then create the journal to make it feel intimate? Well, whenever I look at like scrapbook journals, I feel that they're so like handmade and so bespoke. And so then I was like, oh, like you see stamps and different things. So I'm like, oh, it's stamps. So like stamps are like the aesthetic of our brand, where it feels like a stamped mushroom spore. That's like, it feels just authentic. It feels personal. It feels not perfect. It's intimate, but then it's inside a journal vibe. So then all of a sudden it's like, it creates this vibe that everyone in the world could understand. It's a frequency. I was like, ooh, like I'm reading someone's journal. Oh my God, it's, and there's this voyeurism piece to it. So My point is that.
So give us the 3 things one more time.
So it's best in class product. It's accessible, relatable language. So texting your best friend, like really authentic, what's coming through you, not like, and then the third is considered artful design across every touch point of your brand, but don't make it a brand, make it art. And so those 3 things will move people, because what happens is, when someone came, for example, to our Subway campaign and saw the big grapefruit in the Subway, I remember that in New York City, people at first were like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then they're like, they saw underwear for women with periods and they're like, period, but the first sentiment was like, that's beautiful. And then the artfulness of it opened up their like curiosity to then potentially can make a transformation, right? So when you think about Ziva, when you think of meditation, there's always like a little thing that happens that then opens someone up. It creates a little light inside a thing that then allows you to put a toe in to then expand it. Then all of a sudden you experience what meditation could experience when you're like, oh my God, I feel like my whole body, I felt levitating, or I felt like I couldn't feel my body anymore because I was so tuned in to the meditation I was doing at Ziva or whatever, right? So it's like, there's a thing that happens when you're seeing art and it unlocks something. That unlock creates that potential for transformation. Same thing for accessible, relatable language. When you read something from your best friend, you feel this warmth, and you feel this familiarity, that all of a sudden this unfamiliar thing that you're putting out in the world becomes familiar. And as soon as there's familiarity, it just opens up a sliver and a doorway to transformation. And it's like what we're creating in the world is transformation. It's transforming someone's way of creating or of believing like this is the way it is, to a new way of behavioral shift. Having someone bleed into their underwear or use a bidet and wash their butt when they've been using toilet paper for generations are deep behavioral transformations.
Yep.
It's very similar to a meditation transformation when you're like unlocked in the meditation. It's all about transformation. Can you create a transformation at a one-on-one level, on a one-on-two level, on a community level, on a global level? And that to me is like, oh, I like this transformation, this unlock, this artful unlock can move like millions of people. Like I can see that. I can feel that.
This feels so exciting and validating, because this is very much what I wanted to do with Ziva Magic, because it's such a taboo topic. And I think you're like the queen of taboo.
Yes.
You've really helped make, period and pooping, like these things that people don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
People don't even acknowledge that it happens to them. And you've helped to bring them not only into the mainstream, but to solve these problems. And I feel like I'm doing something similar. Meditation, it's hard for people to remember now. People under 40, I don't think remember a time that meditation was weird.
Right.
But it was.
Right.
Like, it was considered weird. You couldn't tell your boss that you were going to meditate.
Right.
It was the number one question I would get. People like, well, what am I supposed to do at work? Like, I can't tell my boss I'm going to meditate. They're going to think I'm being lazy. And now it's like your boss is paying for you to learn to meditate. It's a totally different world.
So you can be tuned in, yeah.
But now it's like with Ziva Magic, where we're helping people use their sexual energy to manifest. I feel so grateful, and I feel validated that you're saying that the artful expression is such a big part of it.
Yeah.
Because my goal with Ziva Magic was to make a piece of art. And I think that we have. It's like a 20-hour music video where people are learning and even remembering, I would say, this skill of how to visualize, alchemize, and magnetize. And I know that you said that part of what you wanted to share today was that when you're going through the intense times, when you're going through the pain, when you're going through the suffering, which I know so many people are right now, that instead of like trying to push that away, like, can you see that as almost fuel for your creation? And I feel like you do that naturally, but I'm curious, like, how have your darkest moments fueled your creation?
For sure. I mean, the first thing I'll say about like the awkwardness of taboo subjects, right? And how we then realize when you actually double click on why is that taboo? You think about like a woman's period. Every single woman has a period. Without that period, no man would be here. That is the blood that feeds the baby. It's nutrition for the baby while in utero. So when you make that realization, you break the taboo. For something like Ziva Magic, like harnessing your sexuality for pleasure and to manifest, it's such a beautiful opportunity to change culture around the sexuality of it. And Layla's done such an incredible job as well. But, with you and sort of in spreading it out to even more people in a more mainstream way, I think is really, really powerful in that to explain like, that part of the body, this part of our body is the part of our body that feels pleasure, that releases toxins, that, that creates humans, that like it's the wildest, most beautiful part of our body that we're ignoring because of societal, because of, the old conditioned way of thinking.
And it's like, why? The whole point of the show is why? Why are we doing that? Why aren't we embracing these?
It's such a potent, powerful part of our body that we just kind of want to just, and then run away from. And so like I say, like, honor it, use a bidet, like hold it as a sacred part of you, because without that, the pleasure, the humans, we wouldn't proliferate as a species.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to release our toxins. So we would be like just getting bigger with the food in our bodies without having to release it. It just like to make that part be taboo and wrong is such a wild thing. It could be as arbitrary as my thumb. Like, don't show your thumb like out, because someone 100 years ago said not to. And so I think there's such a beautiful opportunity to alchemize and transform that perception while you're building this new project. I'm sure you're already doing it, but to me, that piece actually is the transformation. It's like the shame to like power and pride.
Yes.
And now, like for example, with Thanksgiving with Tushy, like people used to put their tampon in their sleeve and slink away to the bathroom and like pretend like they're not on their periods. And now women, like literally I see them like walking around with their tampon in their hands. And it's like, it's not uncouth. It's just pride for being a woman. And so there's like this old mentality of like, don't do that. Or same thing with Tushy, like poop is a dinner table conversation for moms and parents all the time. Oh, I'm like, change the diaper. It's like a constant thing. Whereas when it comes to adulting, it's like, yeah, is it something that's not necessarily the greatest dinner table conversation, but because it's been destigmatized, and it's just like whatever humans do, let's talk about it. Oh my God, that's a doorway to even deeper conversations with family members, with friends, because all of a sudden you just eliminated one taboo, which is not talking about that. Then all of a sudden you start talking about money. You start talking about sex. You start talking about other taboo things. So there's these gateways that get people through. So even dinner table conversation about Tushy, but people are like, oh my God, that Tushy changed my life. And this has happened, so many times. I would say like those gateways to transformation is why people love our brands, is because they're like, wow, that little micro transformation created a full on transformation in the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because it's a doorway, right?
For people who are starting their own businesses or growing their own businesses, it's like anything that might be sticky or scary or painful, like rather than trying to avoid that, it's like, can you lean into that?
Yes.
Can you really like amplify the transformation around that? And then that can actually grow the brand, because that's where the reclamation happens in your customer and your student.
That's exactly. She's so eloquent. I just love this woman. It's just like, I'm just like 50 Cent, I just love it. Okay. Yeah. And then back to the question that you asked before around going through challenging times. And it's
like using the pain to alchemize.
Using the pain to alchemize. And I really, really see pain as a form of, as the deepest form of transformation. And, one of the stories I was sharing, with you earlier was the story around, being pregnant and naked and on my bed at 7 months. And I had dealt with some crazy things that went down in my previous company. People were saying crazy things about me. And I just remember laying there and just crying, sobbing in my pillow as I felt like, just being betrayed in so many ways. I then had this like out of body experience. I think in meditation, this happens a lot when you become the third person observing yourself. Like, I don't know if there's a term for that, but you become the observer of your own life. And so I became an observer while like I split. I was in my bed crying in my pillow. And at the same time, I was observing myself laying in my bed, pregnant, fully naked, crying in my pillow at the exact same time. And it was one of the most potent like memories. It's a core memory now that I can tune back into. And as I was laying there, like just crying in my pillow, I was observing myself, and I just had this like breakthrough moment, this aha moment. And I just said to myself, like, wow, like I get to feel the depths of despair, the depths of feeling misunderstood, the depths of feeling betrayed, the depths of anger and sadness and like the rage, and I got to feel those in this one short and precious life. And I have, this quote, this famous quote that's like my favorite quote that says, I want to skid to death's door sideways, not in a well-preserved body, thoroughly used up, loudly proclaiming, wow, what a life.
You are doing that, Queen. You are well on your way.
And I want to just, we all want to suck the marrow out of life. That's why we found each other. That's why our friends are who we are, because we just want to juice life and all of it, the pain, the joy, the agony, the ecstasy. Right. And I feel like there is something so beautiful about sex magic around that too, is like the idea of like alchemizing pain to pleasure. It's such an incredible practice. Mm-hmm. And so it was this moment where I got to really tune into the gratitude of feeling the depths of those harder feelings. And so then after that, since then till now, I still get phone calls from people who are going through similar stuff. And now I can meet them there. Mm-hmm. I can meet them because before I didn't have the capacity to know what it feels like. I can, come on, move on. Like, it's fine. Versus now I can get over it. Wait, you're fine. Like, and there's more rage that happens when you just don't feel understood and no one can get you. Yeah. And it's like when you're not gotten, you dive deeper into despair and sometimes,
And the feelings get louder.
Yeah.
I found like of all the work that I've done, all the modalities, darkness retreats, Vipassana, psychedelics, I just keep coming back to this very simple truth is that feelings are meant for feeling. Like they just want to be felt.
Right.
And if you will just feel the rage and feel the sadness, it's like, that's it. That's it. And then you can move on to the new now.
Totally. Like I had this moment yesterday where I had this like moment with, this person that I'm in this dance with. And it's like, and then, some things were said and I just cried and just shook it off my body because it was misunderstanding. And then it was done.
Yeah.
But I just let the feeling all the way through. Yes. I let myself shake and then I just got it out. And then it was like,
yeah, but if you don't do that, it's like the decades and decades and decades of repression. And then it's like ovarian cancer, right? Or you like get skin issues, or you pass it down to your child. So it's like truly this piece of like going into the darkness, sucking the marrow of life and feeling your feelings. I think is so important. Like 1, to be a healthy human, 2, to raise your state of consciousness, 3, to figure out which problems you want to solve for your conscious entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
Right. But if you're just like pretending everything's fine.
It was so amazing because I did the darkness retreat too, and I'd love to talk with you about that. But the piece that was so powerful, just around what you said, feeling your feelings. I was in the Amazon rainforest over New Year's with Pachamama Alliance with Lynn Twist, and I got to sit with the Sapper tribe and the Ashura tribes, and these people have never been to the modern world.
Amazing.
And the grandmother actually made the ayahuasca medicine.
The grandmother of the tribe.
Of the tribe. Sapper, never been to the modern world. And she's just like purely an Amazon medicine woman. And she made the ayahuasca, and then and they blessed it. And then we drank the cup on New Year's Eve. And then we did it the next day. And what was so powerful about that journey was I remember sitting during the healing and they were chanting and the shamans were just, just batting me with leaves and just releasing with me. And I felt in the ceremony, like all of my ancestors, like lining, like it was just like a full lines behind me of my ancestors. Yes. And then I experienced this dark cloud of feelings coming towards me. And it was the dark cloud of the feelings of all of my ancestors who had never felt their feelings. Because our parents, they just throw shit under the rug and they're like, everything's fine. Yeah. Don't talk about it and it's gone. If you don't talk about it, pretend it's not there. It's just going to go.
Tools.
They didn't have the tools.
Training.
And so it was like the ancestors going all the way to the beginning of time, and this dark cloud of all the feelings that had never been felt coming towards me. And I remember I was like, wow, like I have the opportunity to heal all of my ancestors right now.
Yes.
This is that moment. And I just sat there and I just like opened my arms and I just said, you are all welcome here.
Oh.
All of you. I was like, I have tea prepared. I have little saucers with cups. I have chairs. You are all welcome here. Like all of the feelings of every single, the entire dark cloud.
It's a big pot of tea.
And it was, and as soon as I opened my arms and welcomed it, it was like the entire smoke disappeared.
Oh,
And it was this like, and then the next day, the shaman, we did this interpretation, and I shared with the shaman what happened. And he just said, you are free. You are free. Yes. And that was just exactly that. It's the feeling of like welcoming all of the feelings.
yes.
And I, similar experience at a DMT experience, and I didn't welcome the feeling of fear. And I just resisted it because I just had my son, Hero, and he was 2. And your amygdala gets bigger when you have a child. So your fight or flight, because you're more attuned to the room and you want to make sure the kid's safe. And so your fight or flight.
And that you're safe.
And
so
that you're safe. So
die,
you can take care. And when I did DMT this one time, when Hero was 2, you're supposed to like let go and let God and die and come back and reborn. But I just fought death.
Well, was that when we were in Santa Fe?
Yes.
So that's just to be clear, that was 5-MeO-DMT.
5-MeO-DMT.
So just so we're,
Yes.
Yeah.
I did 5-MeO-DMT
Yeah.
that time. It was my first time doing anything
Yeah.
UFO. And it was the most terrifying experience because I was fighting the feeling of fear.
Yeah.
And the medicine was just trying to tell me to let go. But as I was sinking in the ground in the spiritual realm, I could hear Hero screaming my name, Mama, Mama. And I just refused. And my maternal instinct was more powerful than death, which I also felt such a powerful mama experience of that. Like I came out, I was like, oh, mother, hear me roar. But then I didn't sleep for 8 months.
I remember.
I had reactivations every single night for 8 months until after 8 months, I was like, okay, I can't sleep. I slept 1 to 2 hours a night for 8 months. And it was torture. And I finally was like, God, just take me. I can't, like Hero's 4 now. Like if I die right now, like I can't, if this is my life, like I can't do this. And I just like let go. And I became a tree. And I just was like this, like in my bed, like just like going like this. And I was just like, oh my God. And it was just letting the pain and the fear enter my body, the tip of my toes, the top of my head, the edge of my nose, the bottom of my toes. I just felt the fear in my body just go through me. And I just was like, take me. And then it left. Wow. And then I slept for 8 hours that night. And it was like this moment that I realized that like, oh, feel your feelings. Feel them. We are so scared to feel our feelings. Why?
Because this is a great question. Like, why isn't everyone feeling their feelings?
That is the question.
It is the question. And I think it's because we have many, many generations of people who have not, and then we don't have the tools to feel. And then it feels terrifying because we think it is going to kill us.
Yes.
Or we think we're never going to come back from it. And the hilarious joke is, if you just shake like the tree, it's 5 minutes and it's done.
That's it.
You just cry the tears and it's 30 seconds and it's over.
And the deers do that.
Decades. We spend decades avoiding it. And that's where the pain and suffering comes from.
100%.
This is why I'm so passionate about Ziva Magic, because this Alchemize, it's giving people not only the tools to feel their feelings, but also to move them and to alchemize them and to make space for pleasure, make space for joy, make space for bliss, and to channel that.
100%.
So it sounds like medicine work has been a big part of your journey. I'd love to hear how meditation has played a role in you being a conscious entrepreneur. And because obviously if you're going to build a business, the state of consciousness of the founder is going to be baked inside of that.
100%.
So I'm curious if there's been other things besides medicine work, and I'd love to hear specifically like how meditation has shaped your consciousness and your businesses.
Having a practice, and it's been a little bit hard to create a very, very regular practice for me when I travel, but when I'm home,
I can help you with that.
I really need your help.
Okay, I would be
Please
so honored. I'd be honored.
It changes my entire frequency when I meditate and when I'm in my altar and when I get to sit there and ground, because it just slows me down. And like the one thing that I learned about meditation is that it doesn't take away the excitement or the joy of the happy parts of my life, but when it's the darker parts of my life and I'm able to slow it down and I can tune into my lower chakra and my like this voice versus like my this voice, and I can just manage my breath. It just allows for just cleaner clearings of like the harder stuff. It allows for the more scary conversations to happen in a relaxed way. So the person that's receiving it isn't scared. And I just know that about myself. I know that. Like one of the big lessons from the ayahuasca journey this past New Year's was this sentence that came over and over and over again to me, which is move slowly and you get to meet the moment. move slowly and you get to meet the moment. And it just kept coming over and over and over again. And I know that when I move slowly, I'm at my best. And yet 2 companies, a son, single mom for like half the time, I'm moving, or I'm in a new relationship. There's just so much going on. Friendship, robust, deep community. And I love my community. And I
mean, our friends' birthdays are a full-time job.
It's a full-time job. Like, let's be very honest. Like and so like
it's high-class problems, but still, it's a lot going on.
But it's like those every one of those pieces matter. And it sometimes creates oh shit, I have to, oh God, I forgot oh my God, I got to get my car too. And it's the transitions that I'm learning how to manage better. And just like the transition from getting out of my bed to brushing my teeth, to drinking a glass of water, to getting into my altar. And then hero barges in. And then the transition to like, okay, calming back my nervous system, to go make him breakfast, to go make sure he puts his clothes on, to make sure he's drinking his water and has a breakfast part, and getting him in the car, and going to law school. And then at my transition to get into my car and driving in Texas traffic to go to my lab. Think about the number of transitions that is. And I've been tuning into the transitions of my days and how every one of those transitions could create the frenetic, or it can create the gentle. It can create the hard power or soft power. And I need a lot of support to help me in those transitions, because I'm still learning how to manage that, because there's just a lot of moving parts. And so,
yeah. And how has meditation helped you with the transitions?
It's just, it gives me a beat, just one beat. And you can tell when I'm not meditating, and you can tell when I am. The days that I'm able to be like, hey, this is what I need. Or it's like, come on, I just need you to. And then, Yano can tell when I'm calm, or when I'm.
Our kids can tell.
Our kids can tell.
Yeah,
like,
Mommy, have you meditated today?
I love that.
Jasper now, he'll sit on my lap when I meditate, and he'll just like snuggle with me. I'll put him in this furry blanket, and he'll just lay on my lap. And it's so sweet. Not every time, not all the time, but occasionally.
Hero also occasionally comes and sits next to me, and he goes, oh, he like kind of ties, but he like kind of like blinks like that a little bit, and he sits there for a while.
Amazing.
And he does say a prayer. Yeah. And it's really beautiful.
Because their kids are going to learn by watching us, not by what we say, right? Like they're just going to feel the transmission, not what we tell them to do.
Yeah. And
so I'm curious to know, because I want to bring it back to conscious capitalism and conscious entrepreneurship. And if you could share, like, if there's any, like, even if it's life events or practices that have shaped your consciousness to allow you to practice conscious entrepreneurship. And then I because you're so gifted at this, I want to talk about like why isn't everyone practicing conscious capitalism and why it's better.
Right. Well, first we should just talk about what conscious capitalism is.
Yeah.
So conscious capitalism is just a model of capitalism. So capitalism is just like when companies are built, they focus on pure shareholder like growth. What's the next quarter look like? What shareholders are going to make money? Like that's most companies are like
just making profit for the investors or for the
investors or for them,
for the board,
for the people who are doing the companies. The conscious capitalism model is a stakeholder model. It's a win-win-win-win-win model. So it's not just the shareholders that are winning, but it's the shareholders are a part of it. That's one of the stakeholders. It's the customers, it's the employees, it's the suppliers, and the planet. And when every single stakeholder wins, actually, it has been proven, if you read the book Conscious Capitalism by John Mackey and Raj Sisodia, it teaches you that a conscious business that is stakeholder-led outperforms pure shareholder-led business by a factor of 10.5 to 1 over a 15-year period. Wow. So a conscious business outperforms financially a pure shareholder-led business by 10 times. It's an obvious, like, why isn't everyone doing that and building companies consciously where everybody wins? And you feel better. You want to keep building a company where everyone wins. You're not backstabbing someone so you just win. Yeah. Like that's how a lot of companies have thought that they have to build versus when everyone wins, the company wins. Because it's a rising tides raising all boats concept, which is so powerful. And so I have believed in conscious capitalism. I sat on the board for 5 years, the board of Conscious Capitalism. I'm an advisor. And it's been such a powerful model to witness and to be around all these conscious capitalisms, conscious capitalists, whether it's John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods, whether it's Kip Tindell, the founder of the Container Store. These are all conscious businesses. And and they've crushed it because everyone feels like they're part of the rising tides raising all boats.
You know what would be
concept.
so cool is if there were to be a fund, like a Vanguard fund where you could invest exclusively in conscious businesses. Let's start that.
I love that.
Isn't that good?
That's really good.
Yeah.
Because then it's like 10 times like, yeah, do you want to invest in pure, and you want to show you.
And you could just choose the companies that are crushing it from that group
model.
Because then they already have the 5 W's, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love, yes.
Because otherwise you're trying to pick your own portfolio of like, I don't want petroleum in this. I don't want this in this.
Exactly.
I don't want companies that are raping the earth.
Exactly.
I don't want companies that are treating their employees like slaves. Like I don't want to invest in that.
100%.
So it's like if there was already a way to filter that out. Okay, great. Let's talk to John.
Yes, done. Okay, great.
You heard it here first, kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sounds like, when I hear you, it's like, duh. It sounds like 10x is easier than 2x. So
yes.
Outperforming 10x.
I think you can 100x when you incorporate soft power framework on top of that, which I can share with you.
Yeah, let's talk about soft power.
100x. I think you can 100x a business that's from a pure shareholder-led business by adding conscious capitalism framework to it and this soft power framework.
Because you're mixing the masculine and feminine.
Exactly.
Which is what everything needs.
And the soft, because you can still be a conscious business, but led from your hard power, which is still top-down capitalism. There's this kind of pedestal, kind of leadership structure. There's still, conflict within people in the company because people could, even if it's a conscious business, oftentimes like the number one thing that kills a business is personnel, it's relationship stuff. Like even in the Whole Foods world, like John talked on my podcast, the fact that one of his teammates of 20 years that he brought in, his friend and colleague, tried to create a coup to oust John so he could become the CEO.
Oof.
And so it's like there's always these pieces.
Humans are humans.
Humans are humans and doing crazy things. And so to create a clean vessel, soft power is really, really through the lens of soft power framework, which comes with, these from starts with self, and then it's irradiating from the inside out, from self to person to within company, within community, within the planet, irradiating from the inside out, how to go from resenting conflict to resolving conflict, how to basically create space for creativity within yourself. Like these are all different pieces, how to
soft power.
This is all the soft power framework. And then to really, really attune to nature in the end, but in between there's like how to go from pedestal to path. That's one of the kind of framework pieces of the soft power. We can go through them, but pedestal to path simply means instead of being a leader who's like put on a pedestal, like, oh, Emily, you're perfect and you're on a pedestal. And then all of a sudden you have to like be perfect and it clenches you because you can't make a mistake.
Also, and people won't push back on your ideas.
Exactly.
And especially in the wellness world, there's like the guruification, right? Of like, oh, she's the CEO and she's the teacher, so she just must know. And it's like, no, that's just a bad idea. It's a bad idea and nobody called me on it.
Exactly. Versus everyone, it's always may the best idea rise. Then you kind of, you work together to make it even better. And so going from pedestal to path, like I always say,
what's path?
Path, I'm on a path of growth. I'm on a pedestal. I'm not perfect. I'm the opposite, far from perfect.
I'm on a path of growth just
like you are.
Uh-huh.
Don't put me in a pedestal. I'm on a path just like you. And so we're all like humans doing human thing. And I'm here to like lead, but I have 3 coaches, I can tell you,
Girl, me too.
And
a lot of therapists, a lot of coaches.
I'm working with a somatic therapist, with a love coach and a freedom coach. And it's just sort of like, I know that like, I'm on a path of growth. Like I have a lot of blind spots myself that we all do that we're constantly excavating and learning about that requires and that creates mistakes, and we're not perfect.
Well, it sounds like that's another thing. The coaching is another thing you're doing to raise your state of consciousness. Soft power is something you're doing to shift your consciousness.
Yes.
Like blend this masculine and feminine way. And so, I mean, like I'm sold on like, okay, if conscious capitalism is going to 10x, soft power then could 100x, working with coaches, raising my state of consciousness. Like this seems obvious. So why isn't everyone practicing conscious capitalism?
People don't want to invest in themselves. They're kind of, a lot of people just think like, let me just find like the quickest food. More and more people are shopping in Whole Foods. People are getting more conscious about what they're putting in their body. So actually there's lots of improvement.
Changing.
Same thing with mindfulness. People are like, went from being like, why meditating to, this is actually amazing for my nervous system, for my outperformance, my everything.
Yeah.
People are shifting around having a coach. At first they're like, why do you have a life coach? Why do you have a coach? That sounds so weird. It's now like coach is à la mode. Like having a coach is cool. But when we first started all these things, they were like, when I started my restaurants, Subway sandwich was like the healthy game in town. Organic, local farm to table were not conversation. I had to bring that to the world in New York City when I first started 2005.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think there's, that.
So why don't you think people want to invest in themselves?
There's this like martyrdom, it's like I have parents, or you're a parent, you have kids, you're just like, I'd rather not, or I'd rather just, why? I'd rather just sit and watch TV. Like, what does it matter anyway?
So that sounds like on the consumer side, but as far as the entrepreneur side or people starting businesses, like why do you think people are going into the old model versus starting like
because
a
lot
business?
of times people are afraid to see their blind spots. People are afraid to look in the mirror and really see the parts of themselves that are hard or that might not be right or good in the world that we live in. I find that to be like such a blessing and a gift to learn where I'm not doing well so I can keep improving. Yeah. And I love being like, oh, like that conversation went so much better today because of the work works, We
just did our Ziva offsite last week, and this is so embarrassing to admit, but we got on the site, and granted, we had a really intense quarter. We created a new website. We shifted learning platforms. We birthed Ziva Magic, which again was a 20-hour music video, and we were short-staffed in the marketing teams. It was like not a joke.
Again.
And so they showed up at the offsite, and they are like battered. You know what I mean? Like they've been through like the war zone, and just one by one, I let all of them sit down in front of me and basically just say all of the ways that they were hurting, that they were upset, they were overwhelmed, they were stressed, they were burned out. And I was like, oh no. Like here I am like preaching, like stress less, accomplish more. My team is fucking burned out.
Wow.
Like how out of integrity can you get?
Wow.
And I just sat with it and I felt it. I felt the shame. I felt the embarrassment. And I let them one by one tell me all of the ways that I had fucked up, all of the ways that I had like gotten the company out of alignment, and we cleared it. And then we burned on paper and we danced. And then the next day we made a plan to 10x the company. And it was like the work works.
I have full body chills.
Thanks. I felt really proud of myself. It was really hard.
I can imagine.
And I felt really proud of myself.
I freaking love that. That is so brave. Most leaders are so afraid to hear what their team has to say about them and to sit there and receive it and then to put it on paper and burn it and then to alchemize it into a new manifestation of what the company can go to 10x. That's it. That's it. That's actually it. And that is the transformation. And that's you transforming in that process too. And the leader, that's why like you're on the path too. You're like, wow, I grew. I learned from that. I grew like, wow, I grew and learned what not to do, how to, handle it. I even, have a thing with my team when I'm acting too intense. They, my team like does the snail or they just say,
you have like a code,
just like slow down,
Oh,
and it's like a snail. Yeah. Slow down.
They give you some snail sign language
or it's just like, they just say, hey, soft power that.
Great.
Just soft power. I gave a presentation on soft power at my, with my team. And so now we have a language.
Great.
And so because of that, they're like, maybe you can say that in your soft power.
This feels important, like for leaders, for CEOs, of like, if you're doing the work, if you have had in medicine space or through coaches, like, what your blind spots are, can you create a safe word? Can you create a vernacular to where you make it easy for your team to reflect that back? Because it can be scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like nobody wants to go to their boss and be like, hey, you just really messed that up.
Exactly. But if you're asking for it, then it's just like, how can I better teach you, or how can I better serve you, or how can I better explain this to you? Like maybe you need a brief, or maybe there's a training that needs to happen that's better. There's other ways. But I know that I have growth work. When I'm impatient, when I have too much going on my plate, I kind of bark a little bit. It's like, can you do this? Can you do this? Do this?
Yeah, me too.
And because it's just part of like, I got to get through my day and try and get all of it done. And like, we're again, boss bitch moms, but like, we're also moms, and we're also love. We want to be in love. We also want to have friends. And so again, this is just saying like the meditation piece is a transition. It's the slowing down piece. It's the tuning into soft power. It's on the being in the path of growth and being okay. It's self-forgiveness. That part's really huge. I'm so hard on myself, and so like, to really practice like being less hard on myself.
Amen.
You know?
And less hard we are ourselves, the less hard we will be on those around us.
Yeah.
So 2 final questions. One, if you could install one code into the entire species, like if you just wake up tomorrow morning and the whole planet has like a code installed, like a skill or a realization or a way that they live, like what code would you want to install in the species?
I would say to feel all your feelings, to feel all your feelings. And I think it's also important to create some spaciousness in your life.
Well, otherwise you can't feel the feelings.
Otherwise you can't feel the feelings. But like I started taking what I call Friday thinking days, where I don't take any calls or meetings on Fridays. I let that be a spacious day, unless it's like an interview or something like really important. I wouldn't take any calls or meetings on Fridays. And I just allow myself to have like the unwinding of like the input, all the like ping, to like just create that spaciousness for actually dreams, ideas, creativity, things to come through. And then also to integrate what has happened or what people have said. Because then if you're just moving, there's just no integration time. And so I think to have a weekly practice, to me, that's almost a form of meditation. I also do a lot of body work. So when I'm on the table, that's my place of integration and my place of just tuning back into just the spaciousness.
So I have a story. And I remember when I first heard you say this, I was like, what do you mean? I mean, my son was like 2 or 3 then. I was like, how can you do that? What about your son? And now my son's in school, so I get it. But like, I have a story that if I do that, I'm going to make less money. So can you just put that fear to rest?
So I think you'll make more money by doing that because you're being more creative.
Yeah.
You just have so many more like, ooh, like this campaign, or I was thinking like, as I was like digesting the week and I had this conversation with one customer, one person, client, and they said this one thing and and that thing just sparked this idea of a campaign that I think would really get people to understand what I'm trying to do.
Cool.
And so there's like, you start to listen better because you have time to digest and create from the listening.
Yeah.
And tuning in.
It also feels like soft power. It's receptive versus productive.
100%.
All the time.
And it's like, if it wasn't for soft power, the idea for Hero never would have come through because I was sitting there on a thinking day being like, babe, breast milk, liquid gold. Whoa, that means baby poop is fertilizer gold. Whoa, that means when the baby poops in the diaper, like what could be in the diaper to like, and then Hero comes running in my room at 2 years old, points to a book in my nightstand. I look, there's a random book there, not so random. I pull it out on page 31. It says there's certain types of fungi that eat plastics. So it was like, if I wasn't on a thinking day, tuning in to the magic of the universe, as I was asking myself this question, Hero, all this, and then me listening and slowing down enough to, because there was a kid who'd be like, what? I'm just busy to, the listening allowed the answer to come through.
Amen.
So it's that. That is the perfect moment. I mean, I'm so glad we're because that is the definition of the spaciousness, creating the alchemy of a new, potentially giant solving, idea.
Yeah, problem solving idea, changing the consciousness of the planet.
Yes.
Oh, Miki, thank you so much for coming on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? You're such an amazing force of nature. I love who you are as a human. I love what you're up to in the world. I love that you've basically just defied all odds and gone right into the taboo modalities and taboo subjects. Is there anything else that you want to leave people with or anything you wish I had asked you?
No, I think you're so good. You're so good at this.
Thanks, Queen.
Yeah.
So you make it easy. So where can people find you? Where can people learn about all of your amazing products?
Yeah. Well, first go to hellotushy.com. Don't go to tushy.com. It's a very graphic anal porn site.
Okay, so hellotushy.com. Okay.
Be very clear. And then for Hero, it's herotechnologies.com, HIRO technologies.com. And then our first plastic eating mushroom diaper subscription is coming out very, very soon. So they're just beautiful, high performing diapers that also happen to disappear in under 12 months, which is
and
really
then
cool.
Eat the plastic in the landfills, which is amazing.
That's the whole vision. And then anything they want to see about me, I've written 2 books, Disruptor and Do Cool Shit. Find me on Instagram at Miki Agrawal. And then if you want to see all my projects, you can just go to mikiagrawal.com.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, sweet friends, I hope that you have learned as much as I have from this amazing powerhouse of a human, a soft powerhouse of a human. If you've enjoyed this episode, if you have learned something, I invite you to share it on Instagram. You can take a screenshot, put it on Instagram and you can tag us. I'm at Ziva Meditation. Miki is at Miki Agrawal. And let us know, like, we create these as a love letter. We create these because we want to uplift consciousness, because we want to help you embody your highest potential, to elevate humans and elevate the planet. So let us know what you've learned. And if you want to subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star review. All of that makes a big, big difference in growing this mission. So I love you, and I will see you next week on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This?